Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Film School Lifeline Episode 1, Mark. Okay. Wait, this is so exciting.
No, this is.
Okay,
oh my God.
wait.
No.
Oh, I don't need that. Okay, well, I think we should introduce ourselves first.
Yes. Do you want to go first?
Okay, I will. So, hello, my name is Amelia Jáuregui, and I am a first-year grad student at Chapman University studying cinematography. That's the quick little rundown of me, but we'll go way deeper into this in a little bit.
Yes, for sure.
Your
Okay,
turn.
I am Sean Kelly. I am also a student at Chapman University, graduate, also studying cinematography. I'm so excited.
I can hardly contain my enthusiasm right now. But I feel like we need to just breathe for a second because I'm getting very nervous, even though we talk to each other literally every
single
day.
fucking day.
Every day we
Every
are
day.
talking and we are discussing film and school and life and all the different things. And so, this is just exciting. This is so fun.
No, this is.
Okay, Sean, in your words, do you want to share a little bit about what this podcast is going to be?
Yes, okay. So, like we said, we are both film students. And we've really, learned in our only one semester here how to rely on each other, how to be a person for each other, that we could go to in the chaos of film school. And so this podcast is going to be a little bit about us, in our journey getting to film school, talking about film school life, but we're also going to be bringing other people in to share their experiences as well. And on top of that, this is just going to be like a nice little respite from our sort of chaotic life as students, where we just get to talk about anything. This is kind of like our little safe space here.
Yeah, so I'll start a little bit with the reason we came up with Film School Lifeline. So within the first few days of school, so we had orientation week, which was late August, and then we had our first week of school, and immediately, I think something that we bonded over immediately was, oh my gosh, we're coming here and there's so many talented people, and not so much that the talent was scary, but it was like, I felt like I didn't really have any film experience coming in. 100%. I had a couple things here and there, but for the most part, there were some people who have come from working film jobs already, having been a lot older than us, not a lot, but just like people who have had more life experience than us and maybe have known they wanted to work in film a lot longer, or I don't know, there's just been a whole range of people, which part of the reason is why we want to talk to all these people and how we all ended up here at Chapman right now, and hopefully we can reach beyond Chapman for sure.
Yeah, please.
And bring people in. But it's been really cool because, like I said, we got together immediately, bonded over, I guess, the nerves, the excitement, but also the nerves of what film school has brought. And then immediately jumped into, we have another friend, Vanya, who is in our group message as well. And the three of us, again, bonded over that. And hence the name Film School Lifeline came, because we were kind of a lifeline for each other, where we get to really just be ourselves. We get to, without fear of judgment, talk about the things that we're excited about, worried about, whatever. And we all got to learn together. And we're obviously still learning. We still have 2.5 years of this program, which could not be more excited for all of them. But yeah, this has just been a really cool opportunity to bond with each other. But like Sean said, this is going to be a space where, a lot of it will be film school focused, especially when we bring people on, because we want to hear about their journeys, what got them to Chapman, why they want to work in film, what their goals are in the next however many years. You know, we're not, this isn't pressure for anyone. We just want to talk and share that there's a lot of people who might be curious. I know for me specifically, my journey to film school was, I don't know, I feel like everyone's journey is a little bit different. But one thing that I was really nervous about was I didn't personally know anyone who had gone to film school. And so when I was trying to figure out about what film school was, if I wanted to go, I was interested in it, but I had no clue about it. The only ways that I got kind of what felt like personal input was either from people who had posted YouTube videos, But even then, those YouTube videos felt more about like how I got into film school, not so much about their journey to film school.
Mm-hmm.
Or looking at this one website, which I feel like we all know, but the filmschool.org. That website.
The forum.
Yes, the forums where people would ask questions and talk to each other. But that website stressed me out because I would read it and I would be like, oh my God, these people have so many accolades. They already know what they're doing. Like these people seem so cool and so smart and talented. And then on top of that, once it became, which again, we'll go into this, but
yes.
once it became time for like application cycle and then submitting and then waiting to hear back from it, people would just be on the forum all the time being like, anyone heard back?
Just like, anyone heard back? Yeah.
And so it was just crazy because I remember I would religiously refresh that page at like between the months of like January through April, basically, because I was so stressed and nervous about it. And I wanted to hear if other people heard. And it seems like a lot of our peers were kind of in that same boat where they found this website, they weren't sure. But yeah, so kind of funny, kind of silly, but yeah. But okay, I guess we should just like dive right into it. We talked a little bit about what this podcast is, but I feel like we should go into what, like, how did you end up at film school? How did I? But let's hear it.
My journey to film has been rocky. Well, no, okay, not rocky in like the sense that it was like chaotic, but it's just I didn't know it was what I wanted to do until very recently. I grew up, like my dad showed me so many films, and then when like it got to the time where like apps could be on your TV, like YouTube and stuff like that, he would always search up just randomly throughout the day when he just thought about it. He would always search up like random scenes from like iconic films and be like, "Do you see this?" And I'm like, "No." And so like I've had a pretty decent film upbringing. But for undergrad, I applied to undergrad wanting to go pre-med. So when I applied to undergrad, it was always under like biochem, STEM majors. And then I got into a few schools for the programs that I applied to. And I ended up going to UC Berkeley. And I got in off the wait list, so I was like undecided because they couldn't let me in my program. So like honestly, I think if I didn't have that year, things may have been different because that was when I decided to like, oh, since I'm undecided, let me test out other waters. Maybe like, and that's when I took my first film class. And Berkeley is a film studies, it's not film production. So it's all like film theory, film history, writing papers, stuff like that, analyzing films. But then I realized I just really liked learning about film a lot more. And then I took chemistry. I'm like, yeah, this shit is not for me. And I ran screaming. And I think the semester following that, I declared to be a film major. And like I was officially declared as a film major. And then film school didn't come into play until like a year or so after that. I think it was pretty much a pandemic sort of decision that I just wanted to like get into the industry and actually make films. But like given that like Berkeley isn't really like a production heavy sort of program in their film program, it was hard to be able to make anything. So like I didn't make anything other than like whenever I was in language classes, they had these like end of year projects that like, oh, make a video. I was like, period. I was just like, so I would like make random ass projects in like Chinese or Korean, but like it was weird because, anyways, where was I?
No, you're saying you enjoyed doing like the videos.
Yeah.
When they had projects in classes that maybe weren't necessarily for video or for film, whatever.
Yeah.
But you would always take charge kind of those
pretty
projects.
Much because that was like probably one of the only creative outlets that I had. I did end up like creating a new dance team there, and we would film dance videos, and I would be on the tech team that would like film and edit. So that was like another sort of outlet, but it was never anything narrative. And by the time I finally was able to take a production course at Berkeley, because I did have them, it's just like there were like 3 of them and they always conflict with other classes that I had. By the time I was actually able to take one, I felt like it was just like such a rude awakening because the way they handled it is that like you have to make everything start to finish. Like, you have to think of the idea, you have to write it, you have to produce it, basically. You need to find all your locations, find your actors, you need to direct it, you need to film it. You, like, unless you have other people to do that, which I didn't, you have to edit it, you have to, like, do all this stupid shit with it, and it was just so, like, individualized. And there were group projects, and group projects is where I, like, thrived a lot, because then I was able to, like, talk to people and be like, oh, this is the kind of pathway I want to lead. And, like, I remember one of my groups was like, oh, I heard you guys, like, you said you wanted to be in cinematography, do you want to film this for us? I'm like, yes, thank you. See, like, group projects were, like, where I really thrived in that sort of environment. But then, like, that was only, like, 2 of them, and the other projects that we had for the rest of the semester were completely solo.
Yeah.
And so I was like, fuck. And so I was struggling so hard in that class. And I ended up taking an incomplete because I didn't finish one of my last projects.
No, but I completely relate to the struggle of doing things on your own. Before film school, and I would still say it now, but I used to really struggle with coming up with ideas. And I think I knew I loved working with cameras. And again, there's a whole story that I'll get into in a little bit, but like, I knew I loved the technical side of, like, actually filming, being behind the camera.
Yeah.
But I remember there'd be so many times when I'm like, I want to make a short film. But then I would have no clue what I wanted the short film to be about. I just knew I wanted a camera in my hands and I wanted to film something.
Yes.
But no clue what, had no direction.
Yeah, and it was always so, like, even if it was like a dance video, it was a language class video, it was anything that I filmed in that production class, I, like, just holding the camera, which is always so fun to me. And I feel like that was just I felt most rewarded when I was able to, like, film something myself.
Yeah. Like,
and yeah, so I knew cinematography was always sort of the strat. But yeah, I ended up taking an incomplete in that class, and because I didn't finish that last project, because it was just incredibly daunting having, like, no production experience whatsoever, and then taking this class and being like, do it all yourself. And I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to do it? I'm in school for a reason. You're supposed to teach me how to do it. But, like, I think that class kind of required, like, an experience level that, like, I didn't have yet, and that wasn't really, like, mentioned from the offset.
Yeah, so and there's nothing wrong with not having that experience, but when you go into a class expecting to learn how to do a lot of those things, and then they kind of throw you in, yeah, there is, like, a lot of benefit to, like, throwing yourself into something and learning, but you also need the mentors and the resources and the people to, like, kind of guide you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that, that can be really difficult. And it also sucks too. Like, I imagine if I was in your shoes in that, like, in that instance, if I was in this class where I loved what I was learning, but I was struggling and I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about it, and then I had to take it incomplete, I would feel, like, so conflicted on if that was really what I wanted to do. Yes. And it sucks because that's not on you. That seems like it's more on, like, the curriculum or just like how it was structured. Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad that you're always, like, in film school and everything. But that sucks because that would be so discouraging. No, and it was, like, it was such a low point in my academic career because, like, no matter what, no matter how I was feeling, no matter how my mentals were, I would never, ever, like, not do an assignment. Yeah. And so, like, having to, like, I remember, like, the day I had to email my professor being like, I'm so sorry, like, I can't do this by the due date. That was the first ever time I did that in my then 22 years of being a student. And so it was gut-wrenching. I felt so embarrassed having to, like, even send out that email. He was thankfully pretty understanding, and he still expected me to do it, which I did. I ended up doing that film that was part of, like, our last project. It was just over the summer, and it was actually the film that I submitted for the application for film school applications. Yeah. Well, so okay, well, that just goes to show that even though one thing might not turn out the way it's supposed to, that class being incomplete, like, I'm sure as stressful and gut-wrenching, like you said, that it was, you're here now. No, and so it all light at the end of the tunnel. But, like, that's so hard to go through when you don't know that there's that light. No, 100%. And so, yeah, after school, I finished the project over the summer, and because I was up in Berkeley, finishing out my minor, and I just had my friends act in it, and I even had, like, a production assistant from some guy who was from another friend who was, like, really eager. Wait, that's so sweet. I know, it was so cute. That. It was so cute, and I, like, quickly edited it together,
in time for when the 2023-2024 application period started. And I took a gap year after I came home from the summer because I just wanted, like, one, a break to focus on applications, and two, I was studying abroad the semester before my last semester in Berkeley, and I didn't want to, like, ruin my study abroad experience by being stressed over applications.
Yeah.
Especially
God,
when I didn't even have a film that I was made already.
But I can't even imagine being abroad while trying to do applications, because applications were brutal.
Yeah.
Let me tell
you,
they were,
girl, like, they were insane. I only applied to 5 schools because I applied to 12 for undergrad, and I only got into 5 of them. I'm like, you know what? I'm keeping it short. I'm not trying to pay like thousands of dollars in application fees.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm glad that you stood your ground on that one, because I definitely didn't. But yeah, hold on, I don't want to interrupt.
No, so I mean, like, pretty much that's basically, like, and then we're here. Like,
Crazy.
I was super proactive in the applications because I feel like me not being proactive in that production class kind of was like, okay, if this is really what I want to do, I gotta be on top of it.
Yeah.
And I already have a film made. That's the film I'm gonna use.
Yeah.
I have other media that I've shot for, like, my dance team and other shit like that. I'll submit that too if they want, like, range.
Yeah.
And so, like, okay, I'm on top of this. I emailed my professors, like, right when the professors I wanted letters of rec from, like, the first day Berkeley started.
Oh my God.
And I was like, hey, what's up, bestie?
Hey, would you mind?
Hey, Queen, could you write a letter rec? No, and, like, they were all super nice about it. And especially my one film, I'm going to shout her out right now. Dolores McElroy, you are a fucking real one. I love you so much to the day I die. She was so, so cooperative. We met on Zoom and talked about, like, and she was like, okay, what are your aspirations? What do you like, what do you want, like, what do you want me to know to help write the best letter of rec for you? Yeah. And she was like, you deserve everything that good that's coming to you. And she was just she was in my corner the whole time. Yeah. And I was like,
amazing to have someone like that.
No,
because
for real.
It changes your life.
For real. If you're in
the course of your life.
Yes.
Quite literally.
And, like, to anyone who is, like, considering film school or just considering other forms of higher education, literally, in your undergrad experience, make friends with your professors. It's always, even here, like, even in Chapman, professors are always like, literally stop by my office anytime, we can chat it up, you know, whatever. And you're like, oh, they say that to everything. Like, they say that for everything, yada, yada, yada. Take them up on that. They will come in such handy for you. They really just want to see you succeed. So yeah, sorry, a little aside. But
no, but I fully agree. And I'd say my experience is a little bit different, where like, I had a lot of really great professors in my undergrad, but, like, I had some phenomenal mentors who I never had as professors, but they mentored the shit out of me. Like, they took me under their wing. They knew I was curious. They knew I had questions, and they answered as many as they could. They knew so much more than I knew, and just to be able to look back and be like, I wouldn't be here without them. Crazy. And I will shout them out in a second, but
no, yeah. And then, okay, there's not much left in my story. I feel like it's just, I submitted applications. I was waiting, like, and then I only got into one school, and it was Chapman, and
it's fate.
No, yeah, it was. It literally was. And I love it here. And it's like, it's so refreshing that Chapman as a program is incredibly and highly collaborative.
Yeah.
Especially coming from that past experience. It's just like a weight off my shoulders, breath of fresh air type moment.
Yeah.
But
that's incredible.
Yeah, and I've learned so, like, again, coming into it was daunting because I knew where I was at, experience-wise and stuff like that, ability-wise. But the amount of shit I've learned is
I literally, like, look back, and it's funny because I've been talking, like, to my friends from undergrad or my parents or whatever, and I'm like, literally August was how many months ago? Not even 6. Not even half a year ago.
Yeah.
5 months? Like,
yeah.
But it's like we started late August, like September, October, November, December, January. We've had, like, 5 months of education. Granted, a month that was off for winter break. And I'm like, okay, really, realistically, 4 months of school. And I feel like where I started to where I am now, I'm a whole new person.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I think that I've, like, changed much as a person, but, like, my knowledge level, like, I feel so much better. And I still have so much to learn. And I've told this to a lot of people, but I feel like the more that I learn, the less that I know.
Yes.
But I think it's because, okay, I had whatever base level of understanding. And then when I learned more, I realized how much I didn't know. So I'm like ticking off things one by one where I'm like, okay, I'm slowly starting to get this a little bit more. Okay, this is starting to make sense. So you're knocking it off, but then you realize, okay, maybe I'm slowly starting to get lenses a bit more, but then you're like, holy crap, there's hundreds of lenses that you could choose from, and I don't know the least bit about each specific one, right? And so I'm like, okay, I learn a little bit more, I know a little bit, but the range of what I can learn just grows. And I think that's honestly really exciting.
It is.
Because it makes me excited about the things that I can go tick off one by one to go, okay, I want to master this. I want to really learn how to do this. And also, again, this is stuff we'll go into, but like learning about how many different roles that there are in the production of one film is insane. And I know you sit at the end of the movie, you see the credits, most people either leave or like you watch it and you don't actually comprehend that each individual name and title is someone who put their like blood, sweat, and tears into that project.
Yes. And
so I think it's just crazy that now, even being in film school, and I had a little bit of an appreciation for it before, I just have 100 times more the appreciation for every single specific thing that I didn't even know existed a couple months ago. Or if I kind of did, I didn't really understand the caliber at which everyone operates on a film set.
Yes,
which is
100%.
Crazy.
No, yeah.
And I haven't worked on a feature or anything yet, but like even just in film school, Chapman does a phenomenal job of kind of recreating what a film set might actually look like. And again, we're all students, we're all learning, growing, making mistakes, but it's cool that I feel that much more equipped to go into the real world and have some knowledge. And granted, we're going to be learning until the day we die.
Yeah.
Like, film is a lifelong learning career.
Yeah.
You always got to adapt. Technology is always going to be changing. All these different things, but it's definitely one where you get the opportunity to continue growing and expanding, where I feel like there's a lot of jobs, and again, not every job, but some jobs feel like it might be the same thing all the time, very monotonous, like there's not much change. I think it's so cool that like even from project to project, you could have the same role. You could be a cinematographer on 2 different projects and you're having an entirely different experience working with entirely different equipment and tools.
Yes.
And I just think like that's part of the reason I want to be in this industry.
No, yeah.
I love
you never run out of new things to learn. Which is like
crazy. Especially
as someone who like is trying to like stick with academia for as long as I live because this is all I know. Like having that sort of like feeling where it's just every day is something new, and
it's
like
best.
and every project is something different that I could explore, and it's just,
it's truly like, the best.
I'm a kid in a candy store. Like it's just like
there's nothing else to say other than how cool it is.
Yes.
Like I don't have words, and I wish I did, and maybe I'll get words as the time goes on or the longer we do this podcast. But I think it's so cool that we get to be working towards a profession that gets to do this.
Yes, 100%. But anyways, let's go to your experience.
Okay, so my experience is very interesting. Well, okay, not actually very interesting, but so for as long as I can remember, even though I didn't know I wanted to do film, I have had a camera in my hands, and my parents can attest to it. My brother can attest to it. Just lots of my friends growing up, I'm sure like ones that I haven't talked to in years could also attest to it. But I asked for my first little camera at age 3 from Santa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Santa provided me with a little digital silver camera that I took with me everywhere. And honestly, props to Santa for trusting me with one of those things at age 3 because that's crazy. But I took that camera everywhere and I loved it. And again, it was just a hobby. I was a child. I wasn't thinking about careers at that age.
Yeah.
But growing up, I was always, and okay, this is going to sound backwards, but we'll get to it, was always super heavily involved in sports. Yeah. And so I was very much like kind of tomboy athlete, like always wanted to beat the boys in races in school, whatever. Grew up a gymnast, and that was super fun. But that took up my whole life from age basically 3 to 13, 12. Like I did it for about 9 or 10 years. Very long time. And that was kind of all I knew. Mm-hmm. But even within gymnastics, and I was doing it so often, when I was at competitions and stuff, I would always have my dad bring the camera, and he would take it to take pictures of me while I was competing, whatever. But I would always try to steal it and then take pictures of my friends while they were competing. So I always would just have some sort of camera, loved taking photos on my parents' phones at the time before I had one. all those things. So I would get in trouble sometimes for like, how much I was wanting to do stuff like that. But did that, and then in middle school, I want to say, probably around 7th grade, I got my first DSLR camera. And I got a little Nikon D5500, and it did take video on it, which is important. And I had that camera until, I still have it, but I used that camera primarily until about not even 2 years ago, which is crazy. Had it from middle school all the way through high school, through undergrad. Didn't get the camera we're using now, my Sony A7 IV that I love, until the summer going into my final year of college.
Oh, wow.
But okay, sorry, backtracking.
Yeah.
We got a while ago. So I had that camera, and again, took pictures everywhere. I stopped gymnastics, but I started doing more sports. I was running in middle school and then early high school. I did like basketball, volleyball, track, and cross country. And again, sports took up my whole life.
Yeah.
Loved it. I was also very heavily involved in like extracurriculars, whatnot. Like I was a very, very busy high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
By mid to end of high school, I was focusing solely on running as sports. And then in school, I was doing like leadership organizations, different, just nonprofits. Like I was very, very busy. But my junior year of high school, I was going through a really, really rough time. And junior year is already tough for everyone. You're taking a lot of hard classes. I took all
starting to worry about college.
A little bit, starting to worry about college. And so that was a really hard time for me. And I was really going through it. And I remember like at the time, thought I was going to quit running for my final year because I was very burnt out and tired of it. And I just kind of was like lost. And so I ended up joining the school musical, which sounds so funny, but my junior year, and it was Singing in the Rain, which was a movie that I had grown up loving. But it was Singing in the Rain, and I had a lot of friends who were theater kids, and so I always consider myself theater kid adjacent because I was involved. I know all the lore on the musicals, but I really wasn't that ever involved in actual production of it.
Yeah.
But that was the one and only musical I've ever done. I was in the ensemble. I was one of the cake girls. Like, it was so fun. But because that semester, that year, since I was so close with them, every year they went to this convention in Texas called the ITS Fest, like the International Thespian Society one. And it was this massive where people all over Texas would come gather. And there was like workshops. There was people, different schools put on productions. Like, it was really cool. And they were like, do you want to come? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come. Because again, I loved all the stuff. And I ended up going and not really knowing fully what it was. The workshops, a lot of them were acting, singing, dancing related. And I was like, oh crap, I don't have any experience whatsoever having acted. Really, I had somewhat dance experience through gymnastics, and I did dance when I was really, really little. And then singing, acting, no, I didn't have any of that experience. So when I was like going to these workshops and I had to like fill my day, I would go to a couple dancing ones, but then I would try to find the ones that had nothing to do with the triple threats, I was like, I need to find something else. Ended up wandering around, and I found this one for Filmmaking 101. Ooh. And I end up going in. I was like, oh, that's just like a sit-down lecture one. I love cameras. I'll go in. Right? And again, up until this point, cameras had only ever been a hobby for me.
Yeah.
Nothing I was seriously pursuing. And okay, backtracking a little bit more. Similar to you, in high school, I thought I wanted to go pre-med. I really wanted to be an OBGYN or a pediatrician. I was taking like medical terminology classes, taking chem, bio, all the things. Really thought I wanted to go something in STEM. And also the area I grew up in the suburb of Dallas, shout out Frisco and Plano, Texas. But in Frisco, at least the school I went to was extremely academically rigorous. And well, not necessarily rigorous, but like it was tough, but it was highly, highly competitive. And like, I remember my class, there was like 17 National Merit Honors people from the SAT.
Damn.
17 people from my class alone. Like, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, no. I'm telling you, highly, highly competitive. I spent so much time stressing, being so anxious about my grades and whatever. And so, again, I wanted to work in STEM too, because most everyone wanted to be STEM or engineering that's STEM, but
yeah, like
something like that stereotypically would be considered a very smart profession to go into.
Yeah.
And the arts, the people who were involved in them were definitely appreciated. Like the musical, the people were appreciating stuff, but I never fully appreciated what it did for people who were creative because I was never really in that environment. Because I was, again, so involved in like stereotypical academics, and then sports. So I end up, again, going into this, back to where we're at the convention, to this Filmmaking 101, and I go and I sit in, and I don't even remember the guy who was talking, but he said something that will not leave my brain ever. And he said, your passions can become your profession if you're willing to work for it. And he said that, and it has stuck with me ever since, my little 16-year-old brain. And it, like, I had this, like, epiphany moment, like, life flashing before me, whatever. That sounds so dramatic. But at that moment, I was sitting there, and I was like, holy shit. This whole time, I have had a camera in my hands since as long as I can remember. I would always make my friends do photo shoots. I would always make little recap videos of trips that I went on, whatever. It was always just a hobby for fun. Never thought I could actually do it. And it dawned on me, though, I was like, holy crap, I could do this if I wanted to. And I completely shifted. I was like, went home after the convention. I was like, Mom, did you know that I could work, like, and make movies? Like, you know how cool that would be? And she was like, oh my gosh, like, she, of course, my parents have been very supportive, which has been so nice. But it was just funny because I remember, I don't think she said it immediately, but at one point she finally was like, you know, I never saw you wanting to be a doctor anyway. And I was like, oh my God, okay. But she said something along those lines. And honestly, she's not wrong. I look back and I think I did it more because so many people around me wanted to do that. And it was almost like a, I don't want to say status thing, but like I want to prove that I'm smart too. Yeah. Even though now I'm very aware that smart people come in all different fashions. You know, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. But I felt like I needed to fit in a little bit to be stereotypically smart versus I didn't want to feel like I was like, again, this is so bad, like, looking back, but I didn't want to feel like I was wasting my brain by doing something that wasn't testing me. But, like, obviously I'm here now and I am extremely tested. My brain is being tested. My brain is, like, constantly a little too much sometimes.
My brain is being used for sure.
But it's just funny because I, like, look back. But then my story doesn't stop there because this is just high school, right? Yeah. So then my senior year comes and I ended up falling back in love with running. You know, like, that wasn't really a shocker. Like, once things got better, I started enjoying it again. And so my senior year, when college applications come around, I was like torn because I was like, okay, I could go to a film school, like an art school, but if I want to run, which was something I'd been working for all of high school, I was like, the film schools don't really have crazy good athletic programs because they focus more on art. Yeah. And then a lot of these really good athletic programs don't have great art programs, you know, because, again, it's what the school prioritizes. Yeah. It makes sense. I'm not faulting anyone, but I was torn because I was like, I've worked really hard for this. So I ended up applying to a bunch of different schools, some of them for film, some of them for, like, somewhat creative majors, but not, like, kind of, like, more in the communication journalism route, where I could potentially have, like, gone and run at these schools. And wasn't really sure what I was going to do, and ended up going on an official visit athletically to Oklahoma State, and ended up falling in love with the school and the team and everything. And so ended up deciding to go there. Even before I had heard from some of the film schools I had applied to, decided to go there, and it ended up being a very interesting experience because that school gave me, thankfully, a lot of academic aid and then also a little bit of scholarship from running, and it was a cool experience. Like, I am very grateful that I got to go run and be on, like, a really big Division I team. But the experience itself was very different than what I had originally envisioned. And shortly into being at that school, I realized that, like, I was studying journalism and communications. And I learned a lot, honestly, and there's a lot of things that I really value. But I realized that my heart was just not into journalism and communications the same way that film was. And at this point, I was really learning, like, oh my God, okay. The more I learn about film, the more... And again, there was no film classes at OSU, but the more that I got behind a camera, the more I realized I was like, I love being behind it. And in journalism, so my journalism degree was specifically called multimedia journalism, and I had an emphasis in production. Yeah. But these, like, different broadcasts and different things that I would do, there was not as much creative freedom as I would have liked. And again, that's just part of how news is. You know, like, there's a formula that works and that tells the story, and you're telling these real life stories, which is cool. And there's definitely ways to be more creative than I was. And so I'm not saying that I, like, exhausted every avenue. I definitely did not. But I just had a little bit of a hard time with it because I just wasn't fully into it. And then with my communications, again, learned a lot. I think there's a lot of valuable skills that I've learned in being able to talk for myself, to be able to brand myself and like kind of market it. But like, again, I can't imagine sitting in a desk all day doing that. And even I had an internship one summer where I was doing videography for a marketing agency, and it was cool. And I really liked the people that I worked with, but like sitting in a desk all the time and only shooting every so often. And then when I did shoot things, it was pretty like, okay, let's get this interview, let's get whatever, move on. I realized I was like, okay, you know what? This is a good fallback option because it was fine, but I didn't feel like I was challenging myself enough in what I wanted. And so then I had a lot of credits transfer over from high school to undergrad. Started in 2020, like 2021 school year. So the pandemic made my school experience very interesting, and you'd be surprised, like in Oklahoma, I guess they didn't do the best job with COVID, but my coach and the team, they were very strict on like what we could and couldn't do as a program, because they're like, if you want to compete, you got to be serious and take this seriously, which completely respect. Yeah. But it did make for a very isolating freshman year, and then even a little bit of sophomore year. And then, going back to the credits transferring, I actually graduated in 3 years because it just made more sense. One, financially, because I was like, if I can save a year's worth of money, I will. But also, at this point, mid-school, I was like, I know I want to go to film school. Yeah. There's no point in rushing. There's no point in not going for it. And so I ended up like pretty easily being able to go in 3 years, finish the courses I need. Like, I was always a full-time student, if not taking more hours than the typical full-time student. Yeah. But like, it never felt too terribly difficult. I mean, I say that, but I remember I got very stressed at times. But at that point I was like, I definitely want to go to film school. And the more I did different journalism things, I realized I loved camera. And like, okay, I love talking to people. I think directing something would be so cool one day. But like, in terms of what I wanted to get more education in, I want to get more education in the technical side of things, the lighting, working with cameras, why different lenses work the way they do, whatever. And so that's kind of how I fell into cinematography. And going back to this whole mentor thing, in undergrad, I had a video internship at our library, and it was, sounds funny because you're like, what really could, cool. And it was for the library's communications department. So this is perfect. I found out about this role because of one of my professors who was like the main person of the communications department at the library, but the main production person has been, both of them were mentors to me, but the production person, shout out Nina Thornton, was literally one of the most helpful people in terms of going to film school, because she has photography background, so she knows a lot about studio lighting, like, which is so helpful in cinematography, which I had no lighting background. In journalism, we didn't do anything about lighting. It would maybe just be like, oh, if you're doing a stand-up, maybe get a light if you need it, like, so you can see yourself, like, you know. And so she, when I told her I want to go to film school, taught me so many different things. Taught me how to use a light meter, like taught me how to do different 3 light setups. Oh my god. And when I did these videos, so I had to basically I say vlog lightly because there's not necessarily a whole lot to vlog at a library, but like we got to make fun videos for the library, and it was called a vlog. And she always really challenged me to make things that were out of the box for a library, or just like what you would think of one. Yeah. And so to show the library's resources, she was like, you should make a short film. And I was like, oh my god, what can I do? And so there was 2 different ones that I made. One was one of our interns that I worked with, who was a friend of mine. We did a story about her and her best friend being a printer. And she would like take the printer on blocks, and like, it sounds ridiculous, but it was talking about how like when her printer actually died, and it was really sad. But then she was able to find a whole bunch of new printers at the library. So it was like this random thing, but it was this like sweet little video where it challenged me, you know, like to come up with a story idea using the resources around me. Yeah. And that was hilarious. And then I also made this like Twilight Zone parody for my gosh. There's this joke that there's ghosts in the basement of the library period. But I don't know if it's a joke. It's supposedly people have seen ghosts, so that's for everyone else to find out. But I made a little Twilight Zone parody about that. And so that was really cool. But yeah, overall, I mean, she helped me a lot. And so then when I like when I had questions and stuff, I was able to go to her. And honestly, that became like a really nice creative safe space for me at school, because my classes felt sometimes like I didn't always love my classes.
Yeah.
And also on the team, there's definitely creative people on the team, but like not in the film way. Also, big shout out to one of my good friends, Katie North, who acted in my short film for for film school. So for a film school application. Oh my gosh, sorry, okay. I got so sidetracked. But for film school applications, because again, I graduated in 3 years. So my third year, that fall semester, was when I had to start making my application. And that was an extremely stressful semester because I was in a full semester of courses. I was a full-time student athlete. We were in season in cross country. I also had my internship where I worked about 15 hours a week, I want to say. Like,
oh my gosh.
I would literally leave my house at like 5:45 in the morning to go to practice at 6 a.m. and then wouldn't get home till like midnight because I would be working on stuff. And it was pretty much every day. And looking back, it was crazy. I've always been a very busy person, and I like being busy, but that was a hellhole of a semester.
It's a bit excessive, yeah.
And so I was so stressed. And similar to what we were talking about earlier, I struggled really hard with like coming up with ideas. And so I workshopped so hard about what I wanted my short film to be about with my friend Katie.
Yeah.
And she's so creative. One day I want to hire her to work in costumes or production design for mine, because she's like one of the coolest people I know, outfit wise, style wise, like just
that'll be so
essence.
Cool.
Like,
yeah.
And so I really am, I mean, she's an engineer, so she's all smart and stuff, but like I want her to come back and do that for me, and I will hire her, but we're gonna work on it. Anywho, but that semester when I like had no idea what to do about, we just like workshopped, and then she acted in it for me, and it saved my butt, and I'm here now, and I attribute a lot of it to her, because she was, again, such a good friend throughout it, but also just like so collaborative with me, and it was great. And so ended up finishing my short film, which ended up being about burnout in sport, which at this point I was doing so much that I felt so burnt out in my sport. And there was a little bit more to that story that I don't necessarily feel like going into detail, but like that fall semester of my third and final year was kind of traumatic. Not traumatic, but like there was just some things that happened that like, oh my God, they hurt me really pretty badly. It just was a lot. And so I really kind of channeled a lot of how I was feeling into my short film, which a piece of advice that someone gave me one time that I actually, it is so helpful in film school, and we've heard it again and again, but I'm so glad that I heard it when I did, was that like the more specific you get, the broader the audience will feel it.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting, because I'm like, how can you tell a really specific detail of your own life, and how is that going to help reach to more people?
Yeah.
But I talked to, again, burnout is a feeling people have felt in many different assets. And so like, I hope when the people who saw my short film, like saw it, they could attribute like, okay, maybe they weren't a D1 athlete, like exerting their body the way that we had to, but like maybe in their job or in a relationship that they're in or something, they're feeling that feeling.
Yeah.
And so again, it was really helpful that was something that, again, at the time, I didn't even like really realize I was feeling it, but Katie pushed me. She was like, okay, think of how you've been feeling all these things and work towards it. And so then that's kind of how I came up. And at the time, she was also kind of feeling it. So it really worked out together that we were able to do it. But yeah, so long story short, I'm here now at Chapman doing cinematography, which is what I want to do because, again, love cameras, love working with people. I love capturing it.
Yeah.
I think there's so much room for creativity, but there's also so much technicality to it because there's shocking, but there's so much math in it that I didn't even fully realize.
Yes.
And then also there's like, again, so much creative freedom because you come up with like a lot of different lighting patterns. You can come up with different colors. And again, these are all things you work on collaboratively with people, like the visuals, the overall look, like all of that. But it's cool to kind of be the head honcho and like, I have this idea. We should execute this because I think it helps tell the story this way.
Yeah.
And also, like you said, it's nice to specialize and be in this kind of like conservatorship because as much as I enjoy, like, again, like I said, I love talking to people, whatever. I don't necessarily want to direct and have to do all that.
No,
or I don't necessarily want to have to write the script. I love when we are given a script and I'm like, oh, this is what I see out of it.
100%.
And I want to bring that
yes.
to life.
Yes.
And rather than, oh my gosh, how am I going to come up with a story? And I think there's a lot of benefit to being well-rounded and taking lots of different classes and at least touching on these different areas so everyone's more appreciative of it. But I also think there's a reason why there's specialties and people have the jobs that they do, because some people just know how to write a damn script.
Yeah.
Some people just know how to work with actors and tell them the right thing to get them to do exactly what you want on screen. And again, that's what is the beauty of film school, of being in the film industry. And also, this is something one of our professors said, but being someone who's been in sports my whole life and always been on a team, but also been in sports where like gymnastics and running both are like, you have a team, but it's also very individual competition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is so nice to be in film schools too, where like, or not film school, but just like in film in general, where it's like you have these teams, but you have your individual role that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so I feel like even though this is a completely new way, I don't have to leave that part of my life behind.
Yeah.
And it's something that I know well, and it's cool to bring that into my life. And I don't feel like there's a lot of professions where necessarily like that translates so well. And so for me, it's just been really cool to like feel like all the pieces are coming together. I finally get to exert the creative side of me at like full time, but I also get to exhaust this teamwork side / individual goals and all of it.
Yeah.
Because before, everything had been kind of, maybe it was touching on like a part of it, but it wasn't the full picture.
Mm-hmm. But
now I feel like I have a full graph or a full circle, and I'm really getting to enjoy all of it, which is like really cool. And like you said, I feel like I've learned so much. I've loved the people that I've met, and getting to be around a bunch of other creative people makes me better. Getting to be around people who are so much better than me feels so good, because I get to learn from them. Also, our professors, who all have industry experience, they are incredible.
It's insane.
And it's cool to be like, oh my God, wow, you've shot like 12 features. Wow. Okay, maybe one day I'll get there, but
you filmed Easy A starring
oh my gosh, Emma
Stone.
Crazy. But it's so cool because I don't know, this is a whole new world, and I'm like so ready to fully dive into it, and I feel like I already have, but it's been incredible.
Yes, 100%. And like, you put something to words that actually really clicked with me as well about running and gymnastics and being those sort of sports where it's just like, there is that team aspect. You have other people that you are like, that are each striving for a collective thing, but there's still that one specific thing that is like, only you can do it. It's only like, that's expected of you. Cause like, I felt the same way. I forgot to mention that I swam in high school. I've been swimming since I was like 5 years old. But competitively, I swam for 6 years from middle school throughout high school. And so that team aspect is there as well, where, like, obviously we're all, like, rooting for each other. We're all at the edge of the lane, cheering each other on as we turn and keep swimming and repping our team. But then, like, once, like, if I'm in the water, it's just me. And, like, there's that one thing that, like, is, like, that's my stamp. This is me. And so it's really refreshing being back in that sort of environment, which I didn't realize until you had said it. It's like, it's incredibly refreshing being back in this environment where it's like is with like. Everyone is here to do the same thing as me, but we're in different sub areas of it that like, and then we all come together to focus on this one thing, but still not everyone expects absolutely 100% from each of us. It's just, it's such an incredible opportunity to have, especially as we're like still learning a lot, starting out, like just it's just
the
trajectory,
trend upwards. And like obviously there's gonna be pros and cons, and there's gonna be ups and downs, whatever you want to call it, throughout all of this. But like it has started off on such a strong note, and even with how nervous we were at the beginning, like both seeing the way our confidence has grown already, like I'd say I can see it in myself and I can see it in you, and it's just really cool to see even that progression already. And the thing is like we both know we still have so much to go, like so much to grow, all those different things, but the fact that like even just this small amount of time makes us feel that much better and that much more excited to really get into the real world of film, like it's really cool to see. But yeah, I feel like maybe we've rambled for a long time, but...
We're at 49 minutes.
Oh my god! Crap! Okay, you know what? Our parents will love it, because I don't know who else will listen, but shout out to mom and dad, because I love you guys. But yeah, so, okay, well, thank you everyone for listening, and this has been...
Film School Lifeline. We'll have a jingle soon.
Yeah, no, we'll come up with something. It'll be great. But bye. Love you guys.